The Kyiv Independent launched in 2021, and its timing was in some ways fortuitous, since it was only a few months later that Russia launched a full-scale invasion in Ukraine. Suddenly, the entire world was paying attention to the country, and the Kyiv Independent happened to be the most authoritative English-language outlet to be reporting on the ground. This attention not only resulted in a massive amount of traffic, but also a surge in membership donations as sympathetic Westerners sought out ways to support Ukraine's cause. In a recent interview, Chief Operating Officer Zahar Pertuk discussed the early days of getting the Kyiv Independent off the ground, its shift from one-time donations to recurring memberships, and why the outlet has begun producing long-form documentaries. Hello, I'm Simon Owens, and this is The Business of Content, the show about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. If you want to listen to an audio version of this show, subscribe to The Business of Content wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, let's jump into the interview. Hey Zahar, thanks for joining us.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
So we're here to talk about this amazing publication that you run in Ukraine, or you're part of in Ukraine. I think you're the chief operating officer, called the Kyiv Independent. Before we get into that, I'd love to just hear a little bit about your background and how you came to work with the Independent. I was looking at your LinkedIn. It looks like you have worked in Ukraine for your entire career, came up through kind of like the traditional journalism world.
Yes. So, hello, everyone. Hello, Simon. I work at the Kyiv Independent as Chief Operating Officer. My background is I worked a bit as a journalist in Ukraine, and then I quickly switched to media management because I felt like this. I really like the industry. I really like the impact. I think it resonates with me a lot. I can bring more when I work on strategy.
You didn't like the reporting aspect of it.
I did like it, but I think I was kind of wanting to do projects, if you know what I mean. Like I wanted to move things, and that was bringing me a bit more of the sort of the energy from the work. So I worked as a consultant in a consulting company that helped other media in Ukraine. It's called Genomics, and in that sort of company, I also co-founded a publication about media like yours called The Fix Media. So I worked for the last 7 years in this industry, working on different projects from audience building to revenue transformation and so on, both in Ukraine and in other countries. And in the last 3.5 years, I'm working at the Kyiv Independent as a Chief Operating Officer, trying to build this publication.
Yeah, so The Fix is like a media industry publication that covers all kinds of media, but have also heavily focused on European media and stuff like that, right?
That's right. The idea of when we were launching The Fix was to do a Nieman Lab for Europe a bit, and because there was a lot of great coverage of the American news industry, but the European one we felt was a bit undercovered, especially not in UK, but France, Germany, Eastern Europe. A lot of innovation happening there, but because doesn't really reach English language sort of conversation. So that was the idea of The Fix.
And you still work with them as well, right?
I'm a co-founder and a former managing editor. I don't really work operationally at The Fix, but I help out where I can.
Yeah. And when did you found The Fix?
It was founded in 2019, so 6 years ago.
6 years ago, 2019. And was there a business model behind it, or what's the approach of it?
So it started sort of as a project inside a consulting company, but we wanted to be separate. So for a long time, the business model was there. It's just we don't really make money off The Fix. We sort of spend there, but then we make money in consulting. And that was how I was balancing out. But then as it was growing, it started to have some of the revenue directly to The Fix, and now it's a sort of almost like a separate organization that is still doing some B2B services like research, but that's kind of how it works. So research and consulting is still where the business is generating itself, and journalism is more of a cost center.
And so the consulting is like media companies hiring the company to come in and help them do something specific with their businesses.
That's right, especially in sort of Europe and in Central and Eastern Europe as one of the areas where we had like a lot of focus and unique skills. So both the Fix and the consulting company called Genomics had a lot of experience of working in building media sustainability in markets under pressure. Ukraine exiled media from Belarus, or for example, Moldova, or Caucasus, Central Asia, and so on. So those were kind of the markets where a lot of the initial business started, but then it expanded and started including more developed markets as well.
So the Kyiv Independent, I think, was just founded a few years ago. The version that I see when I'm on the website is in English. Is it a completely English language website?
Yes, so I think it's very important to set it straight. Kyiv Independent, it's a Ukrainian news publication that reports only in English. So our audience are people around the world who consume journalism in English, who want to know about Ukraine and Eastern Europe. So it's sort of the way I think about it, it's a global publication on a niche topic.
Yeah, and there are other examples like this. Like there are Chinese newspapers that are completely in English, and you get that in a lot of different places. But what was what year was it founded?
So it was founded in November 2021, and I think it was founded on had this sort of like a classic story of editorial independence defendants to it. It was founded when the owner of another English language news publication in Ukraine called Kyiv Post fired the whole team because he wanted to have more control over the asset that he bought, and then that newsroom had a history of very good independent journalism and they were against it. So then he fired the whole team, and this is how that team from Kyiv, that old paper, together with a consulting company where I worked at the time, together co-founded the Kyiv Independent. It was November 2021. It was a very stupid time to lose English language voice out of Ukraine because the rumors that Russia might invade Ukraine were already very much in the air. There was the months where Biden administration officially announced that they have intelligence that Russia is planning an invasion. So the idea for the Kyiv Independent was to really, it was motivation. The main motivation was honestly the mission and the impact that we can do. It was to set up the publication very fast and not lose the English language journalistic voice out of Ukraine in that critical moment. And that's exactly what happened. A few months later, in February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and Kyiv Independent suddenly became one of the largest journalistic voices out of Ukraine and grew very fast.
And that's why it's kind of important that it's English language, because it's suddenly there was a lot of global interest in, especially from Europe and also the United States, in Ukraine, where that might not have existed 5 years before. So there was it was right when there was all this attention being paid, and so you were able to scale up very quickly as a result of that.
So I would say I would maybe divide it a bit. We got the attention, but not the scale yet, right? So we got a lot of interest in what our work that we had. Our Twitter followership grew from 30,000 to 2 million in a few weeks. Our chief editor became first Ukrainian female to be on the Time cover. A lot of things were happening at the same time, but at the same time, I would say we were a team of 20 people at the moment. I actually joined the team full time, not from the beginning, but in spring 2022, specifically with the purpose of scaling, because the demand for our journalism and our work was so much higher than the resources that we had in place at the time. So one of the most important things for me was, how do we build the Kyiv Independent into the institution that would be here for a long time? It was never planned or intended as something specifically for the war, and we don't think about it in those terms, despite more than 90% of our existence is during the very active war. But the goal was to build a model that would work for many years.
So how did you approach them about joining? Did they approach you? How was that decision made?
They approached me because the team who started at the beginning was also the team I worked at the consulting. So I was helping out them right from the beginning. I was talking to them from the first days of the invasion. So we were in conversation, and then they asked me to join, and I felt that was the right moment to do it. And this is where I am ever since.
And roughly how big was the team when it first launched?
It was around 20 people, and now we are a team of 80 people.
And was it like a membership model from the very beginning?
The membership model was right there at the beginning, but it was not yet the main source of support. We attracted a few grants to kick off operations from like the European Endowment for Democracy as one of them. We had plans to be a mix of reader revenue and advertising at the beginning, and the grants for the first sort of few years to help us with the launch. It played out differently in the end. So now we are 70% of our revenue comes from readers, from the membership and donations, and then grants are very small for us right now. So is advertising. It's not a very big part of our revenue.
Yeah. So you came on in 2022. So what was kind of your mandate? Like what was your kind of focus when you came in?
Yeah, so I focused on building 4 teams: reader revenue, marketing, product and tech, and communications. Those were sort of the main 4 teams that I focused my attention on. And the priority for me was building the reader revenue part. At that moment already, Kyiv Independent got a very successful crowdfunding project on GoFundMe that raised more than $1 million. And our membership that we had launched before that on Patreon as an external platform already went very high compared to what we had before, from 500 members to 6,000 over the few months. But then when I joined, my goal was to what are we actually doing with it? Because a lot of people joined our membership not because they wanted to stay, but because they wanted to donate and then leave. So we had actually, it went up and then started falling right straight in those first months of the invasion. So my priority
what does
was
that mean? So they wanted to stay, but then they wanted to leave.
No. So they wanted to donate, but not really be a members long term, right?
So they were galvanized by the war. They wanted to support you because you were adding some transparency to the war, but it's not like they were hungry to engage with the brand on a daily basis or anything.
Exactly. They've learned about that brand just recently. They haven't yet had a plan to support it for long term. So our goal was to convince them to stay, essentially, while also growing. So a few decisions that we made: we prioritized only membership. We stopped promoting one-time donations at all. We told them if you want to support us, become a member. And then we made a very big focus on giving them something very tangible in return for being a member, while keeping our journalism free. So we don't have a paywall, and it's important to state it. I think our model is a bit similar to what The Guardian has, where the journalism is free, and then when you buy the membership, you get some exclusive benefits. Like in our case, it's an exclusive weekly newsletter, it's ad-free reading, it's events, it's Ukrainian lessons, it's discount for the store that we have, and a few other things I can list. It's a long list by now, but the journalism itself remains available to everyone. So in a way, it's an indirect model, right? It's convincing them to get in is not very straightforward, because for a lot of people, they don't really understand what the value they will get inside of it. For them, it's an emotional decision. So the benefits that we use is more of a retention strategy rather than an acquisition strategy. So that was sort of the strategy that we took. Is we started building those communication inside the community, so it actually becomes a community, not just people who are supporting us regularly, and then working heavily for them to stay. And I have to say that's probably one of our most important achievements so far, is that right now we have around 22,000 paying members, and our churn rate is less than 2% on average per month. which is, I would say, really something that we are very happy about. We are always slightly stressed what would happen if the war would end, like how would people act on it. But we are working very heavy for them to have that feeling of, okay, I became a member not knowing exactly what will be going to be inside, and then I feel, oh, all right, I get this and I get this, and you have those hooks that keep you in.
And the reason you don't want to put a paywall is because you kind of view it as being mission oriented. Like, obviously, Ukraine is very dependent on outside countries being alarmed about the war and giving it money and arming it with, weapons and stuff like that. And so do you see it kind of as your mission is to keep the rest of the world interested in your cause?
Yes. So for us, it's part of what we sort of pledged that we'll do. We're not going to have a paywall during the war. We are in a very unique niche in Ukraine where we are doing journalism about Ukraine to the whole world. So there are not many other players like us. And we are also acting as a bit of there are a lot of other media who read us and then report on Ukraine. So for them, we are a bit of I like to call it like a bullshit filter. And a lot of Russian disinformation, we are actually countering by providing our journalism to other media, to decision makers in different countries. We are heavily read by people both in United States, in Washington, in Brussels, and in a lot of countries that are actively helping Ukraine defend itself. So we understand that for us, part of it is just the mission during the war. But there is actually also a pragmatic reason to it, is that our brand is very young, right? It's hard to build a big news brand in a few years. We are 4 years old. We're gonna be 4 years old in a few weeks. And for us, think of it, the element of that trust building is actually harder because we have to convince people, let's say, who live in the United States and like California, that they need to read not Los Angeles Times about Ukraine, but Kyiv Independent. Who are they? Like, they have this Kyiv in the name. Are they like funded by government of Ukraine? Is this propaganda? I don't know. So for us, the trust element is very hard. So we spend a lot of energy on, high quality, good journalism that sells itself, validation from other media so that they know they can like cite us, refer to us, and that helps our potential audiences understand that we are a legit, objective, big publication that has a lot of unique journalism to offer. And we are big. By now, we have more than 40 journalists and stuff. That's more than, all New York Times or Washington Post have here on the ground, right? So it's a big journalistic team that creates journalism in English. And we do a lot of journalism. We do frontline journalism, we do breaking news, we do business journalism. We have a separate team that is doing documentaries about Russian war crimes in Ukraine, and we're actually releasing our 10th documentary this week, tomorrow. So it's a lot of good journalism, but how do you actually convince people to trust you first? So on that element, paywall we felt would be an obstacle in those first years of building the Kyiv Independent.
Have you had any interest from governments to fund you at all, just because they see it as like, helping their cause or anything like that in terms of helping the war effort?
You mean Ukrainian government?
No, I mean like European, the US, or government affiliate institutions and stuff like that.
So at the beginning we had a few grants who were sort of like non-profit, semi-governmental support, but right now we don't really focus on that much because we have a stable business model. We sometimes engage with them for like very specific impact initiatives, like we did a joint project with UNESCO on building a journalism school in Ukraine, an English language journalism. But right now we try not to. We don't want to take sort of government money for our main operations because we have this ability to fund our work through readers. That's the best sort of privilege we have.
What about like NGOs and nonprofits and stuff like that?
Would we accept certain donations from them?
Yeah, I mean, are there like I'm guessing that there are like certain international organizations that are interested in funding things like this.
So we do a bit of it. So for example, our war crimes investigative unit, one of the first supporters at the beginning of it was Microsoft. And and their sort of journalistic foundation arm. So we do a bit of it, but I would say we want to do more of it. Actually, we are doing our first live event in New York in December. It will be a fundraising sort of gala dinner specifically aimed at supporting our war crimes investigative unit next year, because doing documentaries is expensive and doing investigative documentaries is even more expensive. So this is where we try to use this philanthropic support for like these particular initiatives that we want to do because of the impact and the mission, but it's hard to build a direct business model around them.
So you say that you have like 40 people now. Like, talk about your reporting efforts, because obviously there are parts of Ukraine that are very dangerous. There are parts of Ukraine that don't have power. That you know they're relying on like Starlink for internet connection. What are kind of like the challenge? Like, how is your staff dispersed in like reporting on stuff that's like going on around the country?
So the majority of our team is based in Kyiv. This is our main office is in Kyiv. I'm talking to you from our office in Kyiv, and that's one of the things that we sort of the differentiations that we have compared to other media is, especially Western media, is that our team is living here. They are not coming and leaving to be based in other countries. All of them build their lives here, and it includes both Ukrainians on our staff and foreigners. And we have a lot of also foreigners who work for the Kyiv Independent. For example, we have our frontline correspondent, Francis Farrell, is Australian. We have a Japanese reporter. We have a lot of people from UK, from the United States. So it's an international team. I would say probably like 40% of our staff are foreigners. But then all of them, the majority of them are based in Ukraine and Kyiv. And then in terms of our reporting, we are operating in Kyiv. We have a few people in other cities in Ukraine, but the majority are in Kyiv. And then if we have doing a journalistic assignment, people are traveling to a different city. They are traveling to the front line. We are doing a lot of frontline journalism, and it's actually it got way harder to do it because of drones and the sort of the zone where the dangerous sort of space around the front line got wider because of drones. If previously it was a matter of like a few kilometers where the biggest danger was, now it's tens of kilometers because of FPV drones and so on. So for us, the fact that we keep doing frontline journalism, it actually becomes more unique because a lot of Western media are getting sort of, they're doing less of it because of the security risks. We are also very cautious about it, and we assess every trip very carefully, but we understand that this is something that we cannot stop doing. It's the most one of the most important parts of our journalism during the war is providing information from the front line to the world.
And have any of your journalists died on the front line?
No, luckily no, and none of our journalists were injured. One of the freelance journalists who worked with us before, but he got injured recently, but he was on an assignment from a different team, but we still try to support him. For us, the risks it's a combination of our journalists on the front line, but also the team being based in Kyiv, because Kyiv is also actively attacked by Russian rockets and drones. So, for example, we had a big attack this night targeting energy infrastructure. And luckily everyone is okay, but a few people in the last few months had their windows shattered by those attacks, and we are always, hoping that everyone on our team will be all right. But the risks are unfortunately getting bigger over the last year.
And like when someone's on the front lines, are they just bringing the stuff back to Kiev to report, or are they able to file from, like, I don't know what the difficulty is from like internet connection and stuff like that?
They're able to file it mostly. The internet connection is actually very good in Ukraine. In some areas near the front line, it's worse, but there is a lot of satellite internets like Starlinks that are allowing now to not really have it as a problem.
Yeah. So tell me about your documentary strategy. Are these like videos that are like going on YouTube, or what's kind of the approach there?
So they are going both on YouTube's and on different festivals and screenings around the world. The strategy with it is we understand that it's a very important topic that is very often not easy to sell to the audiences to view, to read it. So another Western publications are not going to do it. Like, they are not going to launch a separate teams investigating Russian war crimes in Ukraine. So, but we can, because for us that's the main topic of our publication. So we launched it in 2023 as a team of 3 people. It now expanded to the team of 7 people, as far as I hope I'm correct. 7 people working on those documentaries. Right now, the funding model is that we are attracting philanthropic support to do it, and we don't really make money on distribution. For us, it's more of a way to do our journalism during the war in this particular manner. But we do spend a lot of energy of making sure that those documentaries are seen by people. So we often screen them in different parliaments around the world. We go on road shows. We had a road show of one of our documentaries about Russia kidnapping Ukrainian children in the United States. We have another one happening literally sort of next week also in the United States about persecution of religious communities in occupied territories. So those are kind of the way how we distribute it, together with it also being published on our website and YouTube.
And are these like 90-minute feature documentaries, or are they shorter?
Usually 60 minutes.
Okay. Uh-huh. And so why go long for? Like, there's like a lot of like really good like YouTube documentaries that are in like the 15-minute to 30-minute type of range that are kind of, that's kind of like the sweet spot that you see in a lot of coverage. Why go for the longer form?
I think because those are very hard topics, and it's not easy to convince people to watch them. And to be honest, what we felt is that because we experimented with shorter formats as well, is that convincing them to watch 15 minutes about kidnapping of kids and 50 are often the same hard task, but you can do way more of storytelling and way more of depth in that longer format. And actually, once you sort of get people to watch it, it makes a much bigger impact. So for us, the main distribution strategy is actually those offline screenings, because that's the format where it's a harder decision to go there, but once you are there, you are watching the whole thing usually, and you are able to understand the story in way more nuance.
What kind of advertising are you selling? Like, obviously the local economy is probably not as strong as it's historically been. Are these like international advertisers? Who's wanting to buy ads?
It's both. So we have I would say our audience is split between many countries. We have probably like 40% of our readers from the United States, and then it's a long tail of English-speaking countries like UK, Canada, as well as Western Europe, Scandinavia. So we have, both companies, Ukrainian companies that are exporting around the world who are interested in those audiences. We have some of the international companies who have operations in Ukraine and they want to highlight some of those initiatives to their audience from Ukraine. It's a combination. For example, we are now working on on a big project on business in Ukraine with one of the big four companies. I'm not sure if I can say which one, so I'm not saying yet because it's not yet live. And that's one example of the advertising we are doing.
Do you have like an ad sales team?
Yes, we do. It's not a big one. It's just 2 people right now, but we do, and we want to be bigger in the future.
Are you doing programmatic advertising as well?
Yes, but very cautiously. So, like I said before, right, for us, that direct reader community support is by far the biggest source of our revenue. So we do prioritize the user experience above all. So we just haven't been able yet to figure out a very complicated segmentation where we are showing programmatic to those who we believe will never convert. So right now we are very cautious, and we have a bit of it, but not as much as you would see on many other websites.
And did you say that a membership gets you like an ad-free experience?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, how effective is that? Because like that's like really effective on like YouTube to get people to sign up for YouTube Premium. It's really effective for like Spotify to get people to sign up for Spotify subscription. Like it seems like with video and audio, people are willing to like pay to not receive ads, but it's kind of unclear how much of a motivator it is for someone who to get rid of ads on a website. Have you gotten any kind of feedback or have any kind of indication of like how effective that is in terms of keeping people subscribed and stuff like that?
So we run a survey every 6 months of our paying members, and we ask them which benefit you value the most. This has been consistently our second most valued benefit. So it seems like they do care about it. The first benefit, the most valued one, is our exclusive newsletter. We send them once a week.
Yeah. I wonder why like more publications don't do it. Like obviously they want to double dip. They want to have the paid subscriptions and they want to have the advertising revenue as well. But it just seems like it's like a great extra perk or something like that you could add in to like convert people to that more reliable subscription revenue. Like I'm always astonished that like I'm a logged in paying subscriber to like Business Insider, and yet every time I visit that site, it makes my eyes bleed a little bit because of their advertising, and I'm just like, why am I paying for this?
I agree.
Yeah. So like in terms of like global, like your publication is probably like really reliant on global attention on Ukraine. What have you noticed in terms of like the waxing and waning of that attention? Like obviously there's the war in Gaza. There are times where the war in Ukraine is like relatively quiet, at least like on an international, when there's not much international movement. Like how much does that jump up and down depending on what's happening like globally in terms of attention on the war?
It's a good question. So for us, we've been growing over those 4 years relatively consistently in terms of our paying base and our revenue. But we definitely had spikes and sort of dips of the attention depending on what's happening. What I think happens is that the overall attention to Ukraine got smaller over those years since 2022, but our share of it got bigger, if that makes sense. And we've been consistent on covering this. So, for example, when the war in Middle East started, I think big international publications reduced their staff in Ukraine while we increased it, right? So I think we managed to get some people who care about this topic to discover Kyiv Independent, and we've been working very hard to diversify the distribution channels we have. So we started as a sort of website and social media first publication. So we had a website and also a very vibrant social media. Our Twitter had been a huge source of brand awareness for us. Like I mentioned before, it got like more than 2 million followers very, very fast, and a lot of people learned about us from Twitter. But then we understood that this is not going to be a reliable way to build a publication long term, and then Elon Musk bought it quite quickly, which also didn't give us a lot of confidence. So we made a big push on growing our newsletters, and now newsletters is actually one of our most important sources of journalism. We have 7 newsletters right now, and a lot of the new members we convert are coming from newsletters. We also made a big push for video last year, and it was not easy. We had a few attempts. First attempt was not very successful, but then the second attempt worked. So our YouTube is a bit over 300,000 subscribers right now, and our frontline coverage often gets there like million plus views. So right now it's very frontline heavy, the video coverage. But then we also experimented with explainers. We had an explainer this year about a Russian drone attack on Chernobyl and how it sort of wasn't really picked up by major publications, but how dangerous it is. and it got like 6 million views, or I think or even 7 now. 7 million views, became our most popular video ever. A lot of comments were like, why have I not seen this in other publications? It's such an important, like, I think for me that was a good example of how unique sort of value we can bring in terms of our coverage. So yes, the attention is false, but I think we try to adapt our strategies so we have a bigger share of that pie of attention.
Do you license video content or any other kind of content to media organizations?
We do. We license our journalism to MSN, Microsoft's MSN. We license it to Yahoo. We also license it to Bloomberg, to Bloomberg Terminal for their business sort of intelligence, and a few other companies like Smart News and so on.
Do you do anything in podcasts?
We did. We have tried. I don't think we were that successful, to be honest. We haven't, probably not because of the audience attention, but because of internal operational issues. We haven't found like a fluid way for us to work it. And then we decided we will prioritize video. So right now, the honest answer, we don't have any podcasts right now. We had a few before. We would like to relaunch them in the future, but right now it's YouTube first. We have a weekly show on YouTube, which is, you can listen to it, and I think a lot of people do listen to it. We have audio versions of our articles, which are very popular. They are done, like they are AI enhanced, sort of done by AI. But we had a situation where they got broken for 1 week accidentally, and we get so many angry letters. So people do listen to us.
Yeah, I'm always surprised by those stats that show that like a fair number of internet users will hit that play button and just listen to an article, because like it's something that I never do, but like apparently it does actually increase engagement by a lot, just having even if it's just an AI reading of the article.
It does, and so AI got really good over those. So we have this feature for like 3 years. I think it's also an inclusivity feature, and I think many media don't appreciate it enough, that being like inclusive to your readers who are having eyesight problems and so on is really helpful for you. Like if you can find a way for your user experience to work for them, you will win.
So when you look ahead, obviously we don't know what's going to happen from a political standpoint, geopolitical. We keep on hearing murmurs of some kind of deal that's going to be hammered out at some point. So that's hard to predict. But when you look out, like what are you to the horizon, like 3 years from now, what are you hoping to be doing then that you're not doing now in terms of expansion?
I have to be honest, I don't. 3-year horizon is not available to me. We made a decision that we are doing a strategy at the Kyiv Independent, but we are doing it only for 1 year. Every year we are planning for 1 year ahead.
So what do you want to do over the next year?
So for us, we I think one lesson for us is we underestimated I think our reader revenue was important for us all the time, but we underestimated the scale of how fast it can grow. So for us, this year has been actually an incredible acceleration of our membership. We started at 14,000, and now we are at 2022, and we are planning a campaign which will be launched in November for our 4th anniversary to get to 25,000. So for us, that was one lesson, and we know that next year we will double down on this, because for us it gives us an answer to a few things. First, regarding the attention to Ukraine and how do we keep people in. Once we really want to tell people there is more to Ukraine than just the war. There's so much more that you can be interested in, but you need to sort of get through the context gap to be interested in it. So we are working a lot on that, right? We're probably not going to be a source of news for everyone, but for those who have, for some reason, are interested in Ukraine and Eastern Europe, we want to be the number one source of information for them. So for us, getting them inside our membership is a way to actually stay them engaged with our journalism. So that's number one. Number two is we want to expand in terms of topics that we cover. We started covering just Ukraine's, but then over the last few years we started covering Belarus. We have a newsletter called Belarus Weekly. We also started covering Russia, because a lot of people are interested in Russia, and Russia is consistently generating problems around the world for many years. So we launched a newsletter as well called "What the fuck is wrong with Russia?" I hope you feel free to blurb it if you can if you can swear in your podcast. And it's also been very popular. So we are expanding in terms of topics, and we want to grow from just Ukraine to Eastern Europe and cover widely. And then we are also experimenting with other ways to build that connection with the audiences. So we launched the intelligence unit inside the Kyiv Independent called Kyiv Insights, and they are doing essentially ad hoc research for different embassies, investment funds, and so on who are interested in doing work in Ukraine. And it's a B2B arm, so it's a bit like Politico Pro or the Economist Intelligence Unit, to give you a reference. That's also one area that we are looking into growing in the future, as we understand that maybe we'll have shifts where attention would fall from active war developments to more of doing business in Ukraine, and we want to be ready to do that as well. We are growing our store. We have actually a very successful store that now became our second biggest revenue stream in the company. We launched our first print magazine this year.
What is the store selling?
It sells clothing and different ones, and not boring ones. I would show you, but it's a podcast. I cannot show you. So maybe if you're interested, go and check it yourself. But it sells. We had a Christmas collection over the winter with like traditional Christmas themes from Ukraine. We had a sort of different creative takes on our journalism shown there. We launched a newsletter called "What the fuck is wrong with Russia?" to support our newsletter, and it's actually very popular. We sold hundreds of those. So that's what we do with the store. We have a lot of ideas of how can we go and expand on that connection, going not just direct journalism, but also engage people through closing, through research, and so on.
All right, so Har, those were all the questions I have for you. Where can people find you online?
Where they can find me online, LinkedIn is a way to do it. I'm not very active on X, although I still have an account. So I would say LinkedIn is the best place. I'm Zachar Protyuk.
Awesome. Well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Simon.